One of the important things which has happened in this field is some of the experts have come together to propose a diagnostic criteria. This was done in 2016, and since then that has sort of catapulted many more studies. So one of the studies we did utilizing the consensus criteria was understanding the epidemiology of autoimmune encephalitis, because to understand a question how important is something, we need to know how common is it. And to our surprise, in Olmsted County, Minnesota, where we have this beautiful Rochester epidemiology project, where we know medical records of pretty much everybody who lives in that county, autoimmune encephalitis was found to be as common as infectious encephalitis, if not slightly more common. If you extrapolate this data to the entire world, I would say there are about 1 million autoimmune encephalitis cases in the world, and 90,000 people develop this condition every year. So it's far more common than we first expected it was, and it keeps growing in terms of the incidence keeps rising, partly because of increased recognition. So more and more people who were just sort of thought as cryptogenic encephalitis, now people are testing for antibodies, looking at potential diagnostic criteria and diagnosing them of autoimmune encephalitis. But there might be other factors at play as well, which might be contributing to some of the increased incidence. So that's an important point to highlight. The other diagnostic criteria which were put forward last year were diagnostic criteria for paraneoplastic syndromes, because some of these autoimmune encephalitis cases have hidden tumors, and these tumors trigger autoimmune encephalitis. So the initial criteria for paraneoplastic syndromes were initially mentioned in 2004, but since the field has grown considerably in the last now roughly 20 years, a new set of criteria were put forward. So the initial meeting happened in Lyon. We all met and sort of talked things through. The things we wanted to highlight was inclusion of many of the new antibodies or biomarkers which have been discovered. Also, a better understanding of the phenotypes of presentations which can be associated with paraneoplastic syndrome, one of them being autoimmune encephalitis or encephalitis, not just restricted to limbic encephalitis, which is a subtype of encephalitis. So we also propose something called as a PNS care score, where people can actually literally check boxes and help whether somebody has paraneoplastic syndrome or not. So it's more user friendly than some of those big flowchart algorithms we had come up, or my colleagues had come up with before. Using this criteria, we again did an epidemiology study. Paraneoplastic syndrome is much less common than autoimmune encephalitis, so all autoimmune encephalitis compared to the ones which are triggered by cancer. But still, if we say in terms of in the US, there are about 17,000 patients who have paraneoplastic syndrome, and half of them have encephalitis as a presentation. So that's another area of sort of an important thing to highlight.